I'd like to start by recognizing what I would say is the courage of Luke Prokop. Earlier this week, Nashville Predators prospect and player on the Calgary Hitmen to go public with the fact that he is gay, and as a 19-year-old trying to climb his way through hockey, I thought that was extremely courageous, and I think it was also great to see the tremendous support from the hockey world for Luke. So just wanted to start by recognizing Luke and his courage, and I think it will be a major event that will encourage more young men and young women in our sport to be very comfortable with who they truly are. So that was an excellent way to start the week. Moving on to less important matters, is the actual hockey. We obviously went through the expansion draft process this week. Our strategy going into the expansion draft was to try to get out from a process where we knew that we were going to lose a player by giving up as least we possibly could to Seattle. And with all the information that we acquired from really the end, from the trade deadline through to the decision on Sunday morning when submitting our protection list, our determination was to go out and acquire a player for a prospect in the late pick, and then allow Seattle to pick between the remaining players on our protected list. And if we got out from the process by giving up the prospect in the late pick, but maintaining our roster, we were content with that. And if they took another player off our roster in a similar position, we had acquired the replacement. So that was our strategy with that. We've got the draft coming up on Friday and Saturday. 3 picks, 2nd, 5th, and 6th round pick, and then we'll get into free agency next week. And with that, I'll open it up to any and all questions you may have today.
All right, we'll begin with Chris Johnson, Sportsnet. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Kyle, I'm just wondering, it looks like Zach Hyman might be moving on from the team. Where are things at for you with him? Are you still hoping to retain his services? And if not, what's it going to take to replace what he brought to you guys?
Yeah, I certainly, I think it was our intention going in to retain Zach's services. He's been an excellent player for us for his entire career here, and I think everyone loves him as a player and a person. We have certain limits that we can go to, and we've tried to extend ourselves as best we can, knowing that there would be a strong market for him. And so about a week ago now, or 7 or 8 days ago now, we gave Todd Reynolds and Zach permission to begin speaking to other teams, try to move the process along so that we would have a better picture heading into free agency as to where we actually stood and how we could go about trying to replace Zach if that was going to be the conclusion. At this time, I've not heard from Todd regarding the reports this morning, so I can't comment too deeply on that, Chris.
Okay, but would you be open to a sign and trade if that's something that presented itself?
We're open to anything that can help to make our team better. So if there's fair value to be had there, then we'll certainly explore it.
Next up, we'll go to Mike Zeisberger, NHL.com. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks for doing this. Obviously, how do you, if you do lose Zach, how do you replace what he brings to the table? Because when we talk about intangibles, he could be the poster child for
it. I don't disagree with you, Mike. I think Zach has shown night in and night out that he's going to give his very best to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we certainly have valued that over the years, and that's why we've tried to find a solution here. But Zach has earned every dollar that he's going to get in free agency, and he's done it certainly not the easy way as well. So there are going to be times as we go through this, especially with the salary cap being what it is, the commitments that we've made, where we're going to have to make difficult decisions, and it will be on myself more than anybody else and our management group to begin to replace the different talent and the different intangibles that a player brings in the room, and also continue to see growth from our own group of players that are already signed here in those areas.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Lance Hornby, Toronto Sun. Go ahead, Lance.
Sorry, Kyle. I just started with the situation of maybe losing a couple of guys, it seems to be your plan right now to save as many off the roster as you can. How do you reconcile that with what happened in the playoffs moving forward?
Sure. I think fairly simply, Lance, I understand that some may look at it and say this group hasn't gotten it done, and that's why aren't there significant changes. But for better or worse, I believe in this group, and I believe that they are going to get it done, and I believe that they're going to win. And I understand that comes with certain doubt because of the fact that we have not broken through in the playoffs, but it's my belief that they will. I believe in them as players. I believe in them as people. And I know that that decision lies on me, and the risk is for me in going ahead that way. So I'm comfortable with it. I believe that we're going to see the best version of this group next season that we've seen yet. And I'm willing to bet everything on that.
My follow would be how many late nights have you had, sleepless nights, wondering one overtime goal changes the whole narrative that we've seen in the past since June 1st?
I've had sleepless nights for other reasons, Lance, but I think once something's over, you try to park it and move past it, and not live in that, and look at how can we take this group and how can we push them to break through. And in the end, that comes down to me doing my job as best I can, especially at a time like this, where we haven't met that expectation, and trying to set the group up in a way, whether it's through internal development or finding the pieces that can continue to push us in that direction and have that breakthrough happen. So, this is not a job, I think, where you have many great sleeps night in and night out, as others I'm sure can attest that have done it for far longer. So I knew what I signed up for, and it's a great challenge we have ahead of us, and just looking forward to embracing the challenge ahead versus looking at what might have been with a bounce here or there.
We'll go to Kevin McGran, Toronto Star. Go ahead, Kevin.
There we go. Just two questions, one on the expansion draft and one on the coming draft. But when you got Jared McCann at such a reasonable price, were you at all tempted to change your thinking and go 7-3 run rather than 8-1?
We thought about it, Kevin, but and I think that's one way I would understand why you would look at it. But the other part of it was it wouldn't just be by going 7-3-1 because the cost was what it was. Would that be smart? It was also, if we went 7-3-1, who are we going to be losing? And then what would the cost be to replace that person at their current cap hit? And obviously that would give us increased exposure on defense. And we knew what the market was shaping up to be in terms of free agents. And I think that manifested itself a little bit last night. And then we also knew what kind of the available players were and who we thought they were. And so I can understand why someone would look at it that way and say we should have kept Jared or others. But our view of it, having more complete information and analyzing it a little bit differently, was there was that option, but there was also going to be the cost and whether we could replace the player who we lost at that cap hit in the marketplace or in trade, and then it just didn't add up for us in a net positive way. So we just elected to keep the strategy as is, but we did look at it and investigate it for countless days prior to the trade, and then in the subsequent days, hours after.
And the upcoming draft, you've got 3 picks, I believe. Do you have any intentions of trying to get more? And what are your thoughts on a crazy draft where maybe a lot of players didn't even play this so much this year?
Yeah, we kind of looked at this going into the last draft, Kevin. And that's why we kind of tried to load up on more picks then. So our and looking at it, knowing that we expected to contend on the year and that we may be moving out picks to try to improve our group. And last year we had 12 draft picks, and so this year with 3. So from October 2020 to July 2021, we're going to add 15 new prospects to our system. Was the way that we viewed it, and we thought we had a more complete set of information on the players in the October draft, and knowing what was coming with what we expected from our team, and thus what was going to happen to our draft capital at the trade deadline. We tried to shift to 2020 to pick players we thought we'd have a more complete view on, and that said, I think we still expect our scouting staff here to do a great job with the 3 picks we've got, and be able to return some players, and knowing the work that John Lilly and the staff have put into it, I'm confident that we will make the most of it.
Next, we'll go to Joshua Cloak, The Athletic. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, Kyle, just on this weekend's draft, how would you describe the kind of organizational philosophy heading into the draft, both in terms of the type of player you'd like to acquire and any positional needs you might want to fill through the draft?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I think I'll answer your second question first. Positional needs. Yeah, I think that in the draft, we would certainly like to kind of come out even in terms of wingers, centers, defense, goalie. But we never also want to sacrifice best players available or take huge steps backwards in terms of what we rank the talent of the player as, or what their projected future role may be in the NHL, just to say we've kind of satisfied a positional allotment. What a player's position is when they're drafted, we can also impact a change through development or things of that nature. I'm talking more winger to center or vice versa. Can't really change a forward to a goaltender. At least I haven't seen it yet. So, we've tried to balance it out as best we can, but not sacrificing overall pick value, I would say, is the best way to put it. In terms of our philosophy, we're trying to find the best players possible that check off our scouting criteria. And obviously, talent is a key thing, but so is toughness, so is intelligence, so is defensive play, and we've just tried to follow that here for the last several years. And as we've kind of 2018 was a bit of a late change with the changes that came in May, and then 2019, I thought we did well, and last year we're happy with the early returns on our draft there. So we'll just keep sticking with that. I think the scouts have done a great job, and the leadership of the scouting department's done a great job. But we're always tinkering and looking at areas where we maybe missed or we haven't valued enough, and adapt and roll from there.
And you mentioned internal development. This is maybe a little bit left to center, but you had Rodion Amirov in Toronto for a month. What did you and what did the development staff see from him that maybe would lead you to believe he could be a player for you guys sooner rather than later?
Yeah, we signed him at the conclusion of his season at UFA. Their playoffs that he came over while we were still playing, of course, and was around our staff. I think it was a great opportunity for him to come in, Josh, and I think that the language is a major element that doesn't get looked at enough, and I'm fortunate to have Nick Antropov with our staff here. He can communicate clearly with him. I was just really impressed with how quickly Rodion picked up on the different developmental areas that they were trying to work with him on. They just tried to, Haley and Danielle and Daryl Belfry, the staff that work with him day in and day out, just tried to get him set as best possible to go back to UFA and get ready for the season there, which they're already in their training camp, and they're a few weeks away from starting their preseason games and then their season. So it happens quickly, and we wanted him to just begin to maximize really the things we need to work with him on so that he can transition over here as soon as possible when he's ready to do so. But I think he's going to have a great season with UFA. It's been really good working with them actually as well, and they're very open to working with us in terms of sharing information and going back and forth. So it's been very, very good, and we look forward to him having a great season there.
Next up is Mark Masters, TSN. Go ahead, Mark.
Kyle, what are you looking to accomplish in the offseason? How do you feel you can improve this roster over the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think, Mark, in every offseason, regardless of how it ends, regardless of how the season ends, we're looking to improve the team. I think the needs of the group are fairly obvious, I think, to me and probably people on the outside. We've got a goaltending situation that we need to find a competent partner for Jack Campbell and let them battle it out. Obviously, Jack had a great season. We have a lot of belief in Jack, and looking forward to him. We need to take steps next year, but we need to address that. Obviously, we're going to have some opportunity up front, which I think appeals to a lot of the players that are there. If free agency doesn't bear fruit on that for us, or we don't think there's value, then we'll look at the trade market heading into the season. So I think it's easy to look now and have question marks. And I think, come September, when camp opens, we'll be at a different spot. But that's where we're looking to improve, sort of in order. We're quite happy with our defense last year and the way it played. I think that manifested itself objectively in the number of shots, goals, different opportunities that we gave up, and look forward to that group continuing to work together with Dean Chanel now coming in to replace Dave Haxtell, who's gone to Seattle, and roll from there. But we have to continue to get better, Mark, and that's what our full focus will be on. It may look a little bit different because of different things that happen in free agency, but our goal is to continue to improve the team in every possible way that we can.
What players in the system do you believe have the potential to take on a bigger role next year?
Within the system or potentially challenge for the Leafs, Mark?
Potentially challenged for playing time in the NHL?
Yeah, I think from my view of it, in the American League last year with our team, we had two guys that already did challenge and play, and Nick Robertson and Joey Anderson. We expect them to continue to take steps in the right direction. Thought Semyon Jargachintsev, he needs to continue to work on his strength, but he had a really, really good season with Torpedo in the KHL, coached by David Nemirovsky there, and they did an excellent job developing him. Then he came over with the Marlies, and I thought played really well. We signed Alex Steeves as a free agent out of Notre Dame. He's been making great progress through the summer based on the check-ins that we get from him. On the back end, obviously we're expecting Sandin and Liljegren to continue to push and challenge and take steps there. And then subsequent to them, you've got Christian Rubens and Matt Caldwell that both had good seasons. Rubens went over and played for Latvia at the World Championship at home. And Hollowell, I spent some time on the taxi squad and traveled with the team last year. Different, almost completely different types of players, but players we expect to continue to challenge, move along. And then we start to get some of our younger players from the 2018 and 19 draft coming into the system as well. So that's exciting for us. That said, we feel that depth on both forward and D is an area that we also need to address in free agency to give those young players some competition and make sure that if they're not ready, that we've got the requisite depth to help out there. So we'll be active in that market as well.
We'll go with five more here, beginning with Terry Cochin, Toronto Sun. Go ahead, Terry.
Hey, Kyle, good afternoon. Just the free agency question, where are you, if anywhere, with Fred Anderson and Alex Galchenyuk?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like when the negotiations get public, Terry. I know the Hyman one obviously has, but we've had communication with both camps, and I don't mean to dodge the question, but I'd just rather leave it at that. The door isn't closed on either player.
And then just getting back to Zach, then all the indications are Edmonton. Is that what you expect here? I mean, I don't imagine you're just reading some of the same things we are, but maybe you are. But is that what your expectation is by the end of the day, that he'll be an Oiler?
I really don't know. I haven't had communication from Todd Reynolds on the matter here today, Terry. So really, I have not had communication from Todd since those reports started. So if I hear from Todd on it and something happens, then we'll release it and go from there. But that's where it's at this time.
Okay, thanks, Kyle.
We'll go to Jonas Siegel with The Athletic. Go ahead, Jonas.
Hey, Kyle, you kind of touched on it before, but I'm just wondering if you could expand on prioritizing protecting Justin Hall in expansion over maybe, protecting a couple more forwards.
Sure. The way we looked at it, Jonas, was, what do we have in Justin and what do we have him for in the future? So he signed for 2 more years. He's taken the last 2 seasons of the major steps. I understand he's 29 years old, but extremely well conditioned, low mileage overall on him. I thought, he and Muzzin together as a tandem and as a pair, especially the first 3 quarters of the season, they played against the other team's best players, and in our division, those weren't a lot of easy nights. Speaking specifically, we go to Edmonton, Vancouver. Obviously we saw what Montreal did after they defeated us. Calgary. Every team in our division, Winnipeg with their top line, had very challenging players to defend against. And Jake and Justin took that role on and performed very well in it. At the end of the season, in the playoffs, I think maybe you could say they would have maybe the effects of all of that over the course of the season and travel and just the way the season was impacted them. I'm not sure, but our focus was on we know what he's capable of. We know who he is as a person. We have a strong belief in him. He signed for 2 more years. If he's gone from our team, either an expansion or trade, can we replace what he brings at the cap hit? And we went through it dozens of different ways and looked at every iteration, knowing what the marketplace was saying about him, knowing what Seattle was likely to do, and then looking at the alternatives. You could say, well, we do have guys internally, but then you're back to the whole thing that we've chased for years, which is sacrificing your defense depth, and then trying to supplement it by signing someone that's inferior to him at probably around the same cap hit. And so that was the decision that we made. We just did not think that he was replaceable, and we have a lot of belief that he's going to have a great summer, set himself up to perform at his best for 82 games and through the playoffs. And knowing Justin Hall, I would bet that he does it over the course of the next 2 seasons. And 2 years from now, we'll look back and I'm on the record as my belief in him, and I know he'll play very well for us.
And as for that defense step, do you envision signing another Zach Bogosian type, or do you kind of look internally for growth there?
I think we'd like to give both Sandin and Liljegren every opportunity. We have to begin converting some of these guys from prospects. I think we block them a little bit. They have to earn it. So I'm not saying it's to clear the path, but I think we will try to focus in on a defenseman that maybe perhaps brings a little bit more power and presence in the way that Zach did. Rubens has that a little bit as a prospect for us, but we're not flush with it. And so we'll look in free agency and trade to continue to address that. I thought Zach brought a lot for us last year, and we'll stay in touch with him as well as we get into free agency.
All right, we'll go with 2 more. Next up, Luke Fox, Sportsnet. Go ahead, Luke.
Hi, Kyle. I'm wondering what lessons you and your players can learn from the teams that went deep in the final or the Final Four from this past playoffs.
I think there's always a lot you can learn from teams that have success in every sport, Luke. Certainly in hockey, I think I'm always hesitant on this one because you answer what you learn from teams and the immediate response as well. And you guys haven't had their success in the past, I don't never want to come up as a comparison. So I'll quantify my answer by saying we're not comparing our team to the teams that had success, even the teams that went to the Final Four. But I think what we can learn from them is that if you look at our team and where we haven't been able to break through, I think in those final deciding games, if you go back and look at all of them, going back to 2018, we go into those games and I think we're just a little passive and on our heels, and we're trying to feel out the opposition. And the teams that have success, not just in hockey, but in other sports, they're going to get to that stage, the Final Four, the finals, and winning. They go out and they attack the opportunity. They don't sit back and wait for the opponent to make mistakes. They go out, they exert themselves in the way that they play. But we did that a little bit early in the series in games 2, 3, and 4. And then we had our moments in game 6, but in game 7, I thought we were a little passive and frozen. And I would say the same for game 5 in Columbus the year prior, game 7 in Boston the previous 2 years, even game 6 in Boston 2019, once they tied the game. So I think the lesson we learned and we try to impart throughout our organization is in those moments, can we get on the attack and can we assert ourselves in the way that we want to play? We've shown moments of it at times that we improved upon it this year, but in the end, when it's all on the line, we have to be able to get to that same level. And those teams, that didn't always happen for them either. They had to have their own breakthroughs, and that's what we have to work towards here this offseason, through training camp, through the regular season, to get ourselves ready for that. That would, I think, would be the key lesson. I don't know if you saw Julian's press conference at the end as well. They talked about the sacrifices that the players with Tampa Bay had made. Thought that was pretty bang on as well. And there's a reason why they won back-to-back Stanley Cups.
And a question on your power play faced a lot of criticism. Do you see it more as a tactical thing, or are there a personnel issue that you're going to try and address this offseason?
I think that's more of something that Sheldon and I discussed privately, and we discussed throughout the season. And we'll discuss now myself, Sheldon, Dean, Manny, and Spencer Carberry here throughout early in the summer and get ready for the year. But yeah, I expect their power play to perform better than it did. I think we all do. There's no doubt about that. The players do, and I think it is, as it's shown at times, it is capable of performing at a very high level in the league. And I think we have the talent to get there. I think we just need to, frankly, free ourselves up of getting too far inside of our own head when things aren't going well on it, letting that snowball and fester and put a stop to it. Thought as a team, in terms of our overall performance last year in the regular season, we did a much better job of that than in previous years. But with regards to special teams and the power play, I thought that, and I think you all watched it, so I don't have to BS anybody here. We need to continue to perform at the level we're capable of all the way through the regular season and set ourselves up to the playoffs like the best teams do.
Our last one here, we'll go to David Alter, the Hockey News. Go ahead, David.
Hey, Kyle, with the salary cap flat the way it is, when you approach free agency, not knowing if it's going to be flat for this year or a few more years, does that make long-term deals harder to figure out or less desirable to want to sign? And maybe you just continue kind of going with the short-term deals to build around your core for the upcoming year?
Yeah, I think, David, it all comes down to value. And if we think something is of great value and it's long-term and the player is going to perform at the contract level or beyond, all the way down to the back end of a longer-term deal, then there's no issue on our end. But it certainly is something to consider. I think that showed itself last year in the free agent market. I don't know, with an additional team this year, maybe better prospects of revenue in the season, whether there'll be a huge change this year, but I still think there's just limited space overall, even with Seattle coming into the league. It's only one more team and 81.5 million more in overall cap space amongst the 32 teams now. So I think that is a challenge. You got RFAs coming up from different teams that, they're going to take a bigger, much larger piece of the pie. And you have teams kind of planning for that. I think we're fortunate here. We've got our core group locked up for the next number of seasons. And we hope that by that time that things will start moving in the right direction. But these are the circumstances that we're in, and we have to make the best of them. So we don't dismiss anything because of the term. It just always has to be about value in that regard. So that's the way that we'll approach it here now and moving forward.